Madam Deputy Speaker, I beg to move that leave be given to bring in a bill to amend the Dogs Protection of Livestock Act 1953 and for connected purposes. Earlier this year, one of the farmers in my constituency of Ynysmore suffered a horrific attack on his sheep. Tecwyn Jones found 7 pregnant ewes and 3 rams dead in his fields in Bededden. They'd been killed by an unknown dog or dogs in what police described as a brutal and horrendous attack. When I visited Tecwyn's farm, he told me about the impact the attack had on his business and his well-being. His account of the event was harrowing. Tecwyn shared the awful moment when he found his sheep coming across one dead sheep, then another dead sheep, sheep that he had lovingly reared, their faces torn, their bodies twisted. His sheep had been brutally killed and had clearly suffered horrendously. The dogs that carried out the attack have never been identified, and even if a dog was suspected, the law has no teeth to identify and seize it unless it's found unsupervised at the scene of the assault. For Tecwyn, it was not just the financial loss that hit him, although that went into thousands of pounds. It was the emotional loss of these prized animals which he'd put his time and devotion into rearing. But Tecwyn is not alone. This is a huge issue for farmers across the UK. Livestock worrying takes place when dogs which are not being kept under proper control attack or chase livestock, in particular sheep. And whilst attacks are not officially recorded, and it's widely accepted that many incidents go unreported, it's estimated that around 15,000 sheep are killed by dogs each year. With the increase in visitors to the countryside during lockdowns, incidents of livestock worrying have grown over the past 18 months, and the financial impact has increased. Data from the National Farmers Union, the NFU, indicates that the average insurance claim for attacks is over £1,300, and some claims rise to tens of thousands of pounds. In 2020, the cost to the farming community of livestock worrying was estimated to be around £1.3 million. I first became involved with this matter when local farmers like Brian Bown and Peter Williams raised it as a significant concern. I met with Rob Taylor and Dave Allen and their colleagues from the North Wales Police Rural Crime Team, who've been working with farmers like the NFU County Advisor, Iestyn Pritchard, to gather data and work through proposed solutions. It soon became apparent to me that the legislation currently covering livestock worrying, the Dogs Protection of Livestock Act 1953, is outdated and no longer fit for purpose. This is hardly surprising given that it has barely been touched in 68 years. It's not kept pace with dog ownership, leisure trends, DNA technology, or modern farming practice. Earlier this year, as part of the government's Animal Welfare Action Plan, and as set out in the Queen's speech, DEFRA introduced the Animal Welfare Kept Animals Bill. Part 2 of the bill addresses dogs attacking or worrying livestock, and whilst I welcome its content, I share the concerns of farmers right across the UK that it still does not go far enough. Yes, it gives the police greater powers to tackle livestock worrying incidents, and it expands the scope of species to include llamas, ostriches and game birds that are afforded protection. But it still fails to give farmers the security that they so desperately need. And that is why I pursued this 10-minute rule bill for amendments to the 1953 Act. Specifically, my bill proposes that the police be given the power to seize a dog or other items and to take DNA samples where they have reasonable grounds for suspicion that the dog has worried livestock. It further seeks a clearer and tighter definition of the phrase close control, which is used in both the Kept Animals Bill and the 1953 Act. The definition of close control in the Kept Animals Bill requires that a dog is within sight of a person and the person remains aware of the dog's actions and has reason to be confident that the dog will return to the person reliably and promptly on the person's command. Experience shows us that the natural instincts of even the best behaved domestic dog can take over when other animals are in close proximity. It has to be a legal requirement that dogs be kept on a lead when they're near livestock of any kind. And finally, the upper limit of the fine, currently set at a maximum of £1,000, must be removed. Where farmers are facing costs of up to £20,000, irresponsible dog owners must be made to realise the full financial impact of their actions. Madam Deputy Speaker, let me assure my honourable friends that these proposals are not intended to persecute dogs or dog owners. I'm a dog owner myself, as are most farmers, and none of us want to see dogs destroyed or owners made to suffer. We know that in many cases, the dogs that carry out livestock worrying will be otherwise lovable and good-natured family pets, which abscond from their premises in the absence of their owner, or are left off the lead on countryside walks. By raising the penalties for livestock worrying and by making the regulations clearer, we want this bill to highlight the problem and be used as a way to educate dog owners. A recent survey found only 40% of dog owners accept that their dog could injure or kill a farm animal. And the same survey found that 64% of dog owners allow their pets to roam free in the countryside, despite half of them admitting that their dog doesn't always come back when called. And by their very nature, pet owners and farmers almost universally care deeply about animals. And much of the solution to this problem is about raising awareness of the Countryside Code through legislation. It's vital that dog owners who live near or visit land on which livestock is being raised understand that even without physical contact, sheep can die or miscarry as a result of the distress and exhaustion caused by a dog chase. Mr. Speaker, Madam Deputy Speaker, this May, 19,000 people supported the NFU's campaign for changes to legislate to prevent dog attacks on farm animals. In presenting this bill, I represent them. I represent those who've worked hard, like the North Wales Police Rural Crime Team, to raise awareness of this important issue. I represent Tecwyn Jones and the hundreds of other farmers who've suffered financial and emotional loss through dog attacks. I represent decent, law-abiding dog owners everywhere. Madam Deputy Speaker, I represent the animals that should not have to bear this unbearable suffering.